Hello and welcome back to another Uncle Tat's Creative Shack video. So this is the paint by number that I started yesterday, and I got quite a bit done into it. But shortly on, I decided to abandon the brush it came with because the brush it came with, it was really difficult for me to hold a point, and when doing the paint by numbers, you really want to try to keep the paint within the the lines. That way it's going to look cleaner and crisper. So I abandoned that brush and picked up another one here, if I can see. This one's got the bristles. It's got longer bristles. They end up holding a point better on themselves than the ones that came with it. As you can see, the one on the bottom is the brush that it came with. The bristles aren't as long, and they don't seem to hold a point very well. So I abandoned that. Let's take a look. So as you can see, I got some of the... I'm just trying to find a good place to hold this. Yeah, right there is fine. Okay. So I got some of the secondary. They have you mix some of this dark green here and here. Well, you can use the brush. So this color here is actually a mix of this green and a little bit of the black to get the secondary green. And then there's a lighter shade of green just on the top of this bush here, and some down here in this grass area. And maybe that's a different, maybe it's better to show the light. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I guess it's better over here. So the secondary green is right in here. Yeah, so we're getting along on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and open up some paint and start working. Okay, when you look at this close up, you can tell that you're definitely going to need second coats here with this brown. And that's good. It's good to show this, because if you buy a paint by number set and you're getting into it, you want to make sure you know what kind of coverage you can expect with the paint. So yeah, I believe that brown was just a first coat only, so it did not cover. And this here is a lighter brown. This is obviously color number 4. I wanted to try to use up, or I want to try to concentrate my efforts on getting the colors that don't have to be mixed, to get those on the artwork first, and then worry about mixing the other ones later. So as you can see here, this brush is much better at allowing me to keep the paint within the shapes. Let me try to get this light a bit better over here. Okay. But again, this is a fun kit. You know, it's definitely something that's fun for all ages. So it's definitely generic in the types of paint they give you, and it's not designed necessarily to be some expert quality, Mona Lisa style painting. It's just supposed to be something fun for people of all ages. So take that into consideration. And then we're just yeah, the close-ups on the video footage here make it look pretty bad, but if you go ahead and stick this thing up on the wall, you probably won't notice it as much. This is just really in your face close-up detailing with the camera. I will say this though, and maybe I've said it before, but I used to think paint by numbers, geez, that's for kids, that's nobody else does. No, grown-ups don't do paint by numbers. That's a kid's thing. Well, I'll tell you what. paint by numbers is not necessarily easy, no matter how old you are. These sets do demand some attention, and focus and concentration. I mean, you want to try to keep the paint within the lines. And I know that sounds kind of, well, anybody should be able to do that. Well, you can, and you sometimes with paint and the paintbrush, it's easy to get a little sloppy with it, and that happens. But I think definitely that this is a challenging project for anybody, really. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this section right here. But yeah, I definitely wanted to show you guys what all is involved in a paint by number. And I'm taking the paint right out of the little, this is the little pot they give you. I'm just taking the paint right out of that, just a little bit at a time. So yeah, so like I said, the brush in the beginning, the brush that it came with, I thought, wow, this is really great. This is going to work. I believe it's a synthetic bristle brush, and the bristles tend to lose their rigidity with use, and they ended up, splaying out, and it was really hard to try to, if you wanted to paint a little area, you were definitely going to be painting in the adjacent areas as well. And, even still, even though this can be considered, abstract painting, you can do shadow work in here and stuff like that, you still want to try to stay within the lines. It gets a little discouraging. But like I said, that's the synthetic brush bristles that it came with, and over time they just didn't work very well. I mean, the brush could still be used for like large areas, when you just want to cover a large area right quick, but when you're trying to get like up close to the next segment. Now, I don't mind blending, like this tan, this color brown here, or this tan into this brown. I don't mind blending that. I mean, I know it's a paint by number and you should stay within the shapes to achieve the final effect, but I don't mind blending them, because this will end up being a the part we're painting here is actually the bridge or the viaduct that the train is coming out of. Let me see if I can't get a picture of that for you here. And let's try to move. Okay, so this is what we're painting now, is this bridge, this brown colors is what I'm painting now. And so you're adding shapes and some shadowing and stuff like that. You can blend the colors, I would think. It's not like they have to absolutely be this brown here and this brown here. You can kind of smear them in together, and it's just going to create more shadowing or shading. So yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, when you're doing something like this, it does not have to be, verbatim. If you get some on the next shade or the next color, that's fine. Same thing like when you're doing the bushes, the greens and the dark greens. If you overlap and you get some into the next one, that's fine. Bushes in real life, you're going to look at different colors and shades of colors, so it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be as delineated as this green here from that green there. So, but for all intents and purposes, we try to stay within the color lines. And two, when you come back over it with a second coat, you can kind of clean up some of the areas that you went out of bounds with the, even with the next color, this 4-25, that's a mix I have to make. So when I come back over with that one, that I can kind of help, clean up the edges of the color I'm painting right now. Okay. So see, that's where the bridge starting to come into play. There's a bunch of different shades of different browns to be put in there yet still, but yeah, so we're just gonna move it right along. There we go. So I'm gonna do excuse me, I'm gonna do just a little bit more on this for this session before I consider it done for today. It's a really fun project, but you know, I've got a lot of other things I want to do, and this is kind of a meticulous work with wanting to try to stay within the lines when you're painting. But the new brush is definitely better, the one with the natural hairs as opposed to the synthetic hairbrush that it came with. That one was just god awful. I couldn't get anything done with that one. Like I said, it started out okay, but then as time went on, it just the bristles, you know, they got worn out really quickly, and instead of being able to use it, you know, to form a point, the bristles didn't want to even stick together, no matter what I did. Even, you know, washing it in between usage, and, you know, pressing the bristles together, you know, keeping them together even when it was wet. I just wasn't getting anywhere. So, yeah, I had to retire that brush. But it's okay. It's okay. It started. It got the project started, and then, you know, if someone who didn't have any brushes at all, it would be not too bad to use, I guess. I wanted to throw some red on this. There's obviously a lot of greens and browns and blacks. Well, eventually there's other color, so I also wanted to take a break from using those greens, blacks, and browns. There's a little bit more green up in here for the tree tops over here, as well as some on the other side over there. But you know, we'll get to those. We'll get to those later. No rush. So like I said, I bought this at Toy City, which is in Keene, New Hampshire. So I guess I can give them a big shout out to them if anybody lives in New Hampshire and down in the Keene area want to stop by. You can pick this paint by number up, or they have many different designs to choose from. I like trains. I guess that's probably a good segue into why I got this one. I like trains. You know, obviously there's dozens of different paint by numbers you can do, but trains is my thing. So when I saw this one, I was like, oh, bam, gotta get it. And but I got it a while ago, thinking I was going to do it like on a vacation from work, but I just never picked it up at that time. So now that I have a YouTube channel, it's like, whoa, what a perfect idea to, you know, let people see how these kits are, and, you know, how the paint is, how the brushes are, how the, you know, what's the contents of the box. I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to do that. Now that I have the channel, I can film it. Okay. So these cars back in here are also a red color. Help catch you up to speed if this is your first time chiming in here. We have a couple of, looks like parlor cars, or you know, passenger cars, as well as a front bumper plate that's also in red, as well as, of course, this guy here. I'm painting his sweater right now. So there's a few more areas of red on this. So I wanted to try to get what I could. The opacity of these paints is questionable. I'm finding that I need to do, you know, at least two coats for the thinner colors, or the lighter colors. I think the black is the only one that you really don't need to do two coats on. you can pretty much cover up what you need to with one coat. Whereas pretty much every other color on this thing, it looks better with two coats. Let's see. Oops. I think the hardest part of this sometimes is deciphering where the lines start and stop. Some of these are so close together. And you want to make sure what are we supposed to be painting here. There's definitely some black involved. Although this red is actually going on pretty well. I'm not sure if it's going to need two coats or not. Seems to be going on pretty good. You'll see that I had some, somehow I got paint like all over my hands, and I ended up getting a spot here on the side. I'm not concerned about that at all. I'll be able to paint over that with the colors needed for the bridge, but yeah, somehow I have no idea. Maybe it was in opening the container or something. So we have a lot of detail in here that's going to be, black, and there's some gray striping in there as well to represent the windows. So we have to leave that alone. Yeah. So here. I think what's great about the projects, though, is that even though there's a painting guide and color keys and whatnot, if you wanted to, you could do this in your own colors. There's nothing to prevent you from doing that. You just happen to like the design, but you want to change the color of the locomotive. I mean, I would think you could totally do that without a problem. Customize it, make it more so your own, I would think about that because you already got the bushes, bushes and trees are in green, you got some green grass, and then you got the green locomotive. Might be a lot of green. We'll see what this looks like when it's all said and done, but I almost would think like there's a lot of green on there. You could easily paint the locomotive blue or yellow, or I think you can even do like an orange. There's different colors that you can do. Alright, so before we pack up, we've got 1125, which is a blend of the red that I'm currently using, and 25, which is the dark brown. So what we're doing is we're going to end up mixing some colors together to achieve this middle tone of red here. Not the darkest brown there, but this middle tone of red, which is shown here on his jacket, as well as on the bottom sides of the cars. So how do I do that? Well, since it's a reddish brown color, I see where the paint's coming from. It's coming from back here. Since it's more of a reddish brown color, not a brown red color, I would go with the red first as far as mixing it. Now this cap here, I got these, this is a cap to a containers that I've got off of Amazon. I found the containers in the caps to not really work very well together. They were really hard to snap them in place, and then add to that trying to take them off. So I was using them for storage for something else, and it just didn't really work the way I wanted it to. So, but the lids make great little paint palettes here. Plastic lid, so you don't have to worry about it. You can wash it when you're all done with it and use it again. I would think similarly, you could probably get one from a can of Pringles. So here we go. We're just mixing some of this red with the brown. Or I should say some of the brown with the red. And again, you know, you don't have to match the box exactly because the box is printed. You know, the picture on the box is printed. And, you know, the inks used for that are different than the paints that they give you. So I just kind of go ahead and see what I got. Let's see if you can see that. No, you probably can't. It looks like a mess on the camera, but I'd go with that. It's kind of it's definitely a mix of this red here with some brown. So we'll go ahead and start it up. Looks like there's actually quite a lot of this on his jacket, so I just mix up as much as I can. Let's see, maybe we should start with the cars first and work our way back to him. So we'll start way over here. And for me, anytime I mix a custom color on this, I want to paint until I'm done with that custom color. You know, I guess there's different ways you can store the paint after you've mixed it. But I find it just better to just use it all up at once and not have to worry about storing it for later. Suppose what you could do is, as you get, you know, if these paint by numbers is your thing, as you get a few of them done, you may end up having a bunch of these paint pots left over. You could probably, you know, rinse it out and, you know, use that to mix your paint up in. And then that way, when you're, you know, done for the night or done with that part of the project, you know, if you've mixed it up in there, it's got a lid on it to just help seal it shut. So that would work. It's kind of a good idea. It already comes with the kit anyway, so it's not like you have to buy something extra. Okay, well, it's looking fairly proper. Kind of gives it that gives it that shade tone just like we have on the locomotive. I like that. So the directions tell you to mix, but what they don't tell you is the ratios. Actually, there's more red to be there. Okay, there's more red that goes right there. That's okay, I can do that. They don't tell you the ratios, so they don't tell you, like, you know, 5-to-1 or 50-50 or anything like that. They just kind of say, you know, this is a mixture. Mix it up. And I guess that's probably just the best way they can tell you. I mean, it would be kind of hard because how do you measure, you know, a little bit out of each pot? It would be probably hard to find something that you can measure it with. So you just have to kind of go by eye and see if you like it. Worst case scenario is you have to paint over it. You don't like the colors that came out? Paint over it. I've actually done that a little bit on this here, where when I was painting the top up here, there's like a bluish green color here, and you know, it's also over here at the trees. I changed that up a little bit, added a little bit of white to it because I wasn't really crazy about it. Same to be said for, you know, this brown patch here and a brown patch under here. Those patches were really dark, like this dark brown over here. Excuse me, and I didn't really like that, so I just added a little bit of, I think I added a little bit more yellow to the mixture, and that took care of it for me there. Lightened it up quite a bit. Now, as for the paints, this stuff says that it is a water-based paint, or you can actually mix it. It says you can mix it with water to help it flow off of the brush. But I think what's funny is it almost has properties of oil paint. It's almost like greasy, rather than just you know, like acrylic paint is definitely a creamy texture to it, but this stuff here has more of a almost a greasy texture to it, in that it's, as you're spreading it, it's not I don't know, it doesn't flow the same as you'd like it to for acrylics. Now, if I was painting this and I found that I didn't make enough paint, you'd say, well, what are you going to do? Well, you just go ahead and mix it the best you can and get as closely to the color as you can, and I think you'd probably be okay. Go ahead and just, you'd blend it in with the existing painted areas, you know, just kind of like feathered over the existing painting areas, and it would probably work out just fine. So if you ran out of paint, yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned with it, but I don't know, I'm just kind of one of those guys that needs to, I want to have it all at the same time. I don't want to have to try to come up with a you know, more paint. However, this dark green here, or the medium, I guess you could call it the darker green. That would be the medium, and then there would be the light. The darker green there's actually more of it up here in these trees, and I didn't pick up on that when I was first doing this. So I will have to go back and mix up a color closely to that one. You know, close enough, and do those. It's kind of okay because, you know, this is over in the distance a little further, so the colors don't have to be exact. You know, first of all, lots of, you know, trees are different colors anyways, and, you know, you can get it close, but it doesn't have to be exact. So that is something that I'll have to do later on. And of course, things to note is that this paint, when it's wet, just like any paint, is darker than what it is when it's dry. So, that being said, it's almost kind of like a gamble as to what this shade is really going to look like when it's all said and done. You know, because as it's wet, you're thinking, wow, that's really dark. But then when it starts to dry up, you can already tell up in here, as it starts to dry up, it looks a little bit lighter. But this is where you use your own creative ingenuity, or whatever, just come up with your own custom color. Just experiment until you get the color that you like. So yeah, so anyways, as you can tell, the paint gets kind of sticky. So I dab my brush in water every once in a while. I got a little cap of water off to the side. And per the instructions, it says that's all you really need to do to help it flow off the bristles easier. So, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, come to find out, you need quite a bit of this paint for this particular section. So it's I might end up running out myself and have to kind of put a little bit more paint in there. So you're just gonna scoop up some water right in there and just kind of mix it in with the paint. And the other thing to note too is that this is abstract. You know, all these wrinkles here to, you know, to showcase the different color. It's all abstract. It doesn't have to be the exact same pattern that they show here. So I think if you're really a stickler for wanting to stay in those lines, it would definitely take you a very long time. I go outside lines here and there. It is what it is. I think if you're stuck exactly with those lines and don't, you know, go anywhere outside of it, you know, good on you. But the reality is you're using a paintbrush, you're using liquid paint. You know, you're not using like a fine-tipped, sharp, colored pencil or something. You're using liquid paint on a brush, so you can't control to exact tolerances as you can with a colored pencil. So in doing these, I'm finding just enjoy the process, just enjoy painting. You know, stay pretty close to the lines, obviously, but I wouldn't beat yourself up about it if you go a little, you know, here and there outside, because you can always come back and clean it up. There's actually a darker shade still in this where it's marked 1110. So there's actually a darker shade still. Let me see if that's in the camera there. Right here. So these patches here, here, and here, and here is actually a darker shade. So what that means is that as you're doing this, you know, you can always come back with that darker shade and, you know, clean up some of the lines. So it's not something you have to really be too terribly concerned with, like, oh my god, I can't, you know, I have to be right on the money every time. No, not really. You can always go back. So I'm just going to try to use up some of this paint here because I believe these are the only two areas that require this color. There's not, don't believe it's needed anywhere else. So what I do is I just use up the remnants of whatever's on the lid here. I go back to these areas. This paint dries fairly quickly, which is good. You know, that's definitely a plus of the acrylic paint, is that it does dry quickly. So you're able to, you know, come back to this area over here, pick up some paint. Like I said, most of these paint colors need a second coat to really give them the opacity that it needs. So if you have extra paint, that's the time to do it. We'll go back over here. Of course, I always look at it too as a texture thing. So if you don't put the second coat on, and you can see some of the white paper coming through, you can see some spots that are lighter than others. You could look at it two ways. You could look at it where, oh my god, I've got to fill that in with the paint right away because it's not uniform. Or you could look at it as, well, this is a guy's jacket, and so maybe, you know, the jacket has wrinkles in it, and, you know, it's reflecting the light in different hues and whatnot, and its jacket that's made out of material which does not always have to have a uniform color to it. You know, if it was like, I say, it was like a fabric jacket, something more than just like a satin jacket or something like this. If it was like a fabric, I don't think it really matters if it's a solid color. Light's going to be reflecting off it in different areas, and fabric has a texture to it, so the areas that aren't filled in exactly as they should be are just representing the texture of the jacket. I guess that's what I was trying to say. So in other words, it's almost a plus to do it that way. But I've still got some paint left, so we're going to try to use it all up. As many spots as I can for that second coat. So when I'm done this, I'm probably going to go ahead and hang it up somewhere. I gotta find a spot to do it, but I don't think I'm going to frame it and hang it up. Why not? Maybe I can use it as a backdrop for the channel itself. And before I forget, got one little spot of red up by his collar up there that I didn't get. I'll go ahead and hit that now. And take a look if there's any other red areas that need to be addressed while I'm at it. So it's just right in here. You know, and again, sometimes it's because these lines, it's really, you gotta keep following them to the end to make sure you fill in everything, and sometimes it's not all that easy to figure out where's the end, and so just trim that up. Yeah, and that's how that's supposed to go. I think the cars in the background aren't too terribly bad. I might just give them a little bit. These cars here. I think the red out of all the colors so far has actually done really well, not needing necessarily too much second coat. Whereas the green definitely did. That was kind of a pain. All right, and that's going to wrap up this segment. I have a feeling that this is probably going to take several segments to finish up this entire video series. We are running into Sunday afternoon now, and you know, the work week is coming upon us, so I'll try to get as much of it done as I can coming up, but yeah, it'll definitely take a few more segments, but I'd like to keep people updated and don't like leaving people high and dry. So anyways, thank you for watching. This has been part 2 of the paint by number train series I'm working on. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for part 3. Bye bye.